Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 International Summer Course with the topic of Sustainable Coffee System Value Co-Creation in Rural Communities. Whether you are a producer, a roaster, policymaker, or simply a coffee lover, you know that our morning cup is a final step in a massive, complex global chain. Historically, that chain has been very linear, and often that the people at the very beginning, the farmers and the rural communities have held the least leverage. But today, we are talking about the shifting of the paradigm, and we are exploring the value co-creation, that idea that sustainability is not just a premium certifications or a charity project, but a collaborative business model where both buyers and suppliers and also producers build shared value on the ground. And today's topic is we will talk about the coffee system and digitalizations. And before we proceed with the topics, let's see what is our topic today we'll talk about.
Coffee quality is not merely found. It is engineered through a deep understanding of coffee materials. Having understood the potentials inside the coffee beans, the physical, chemical, and functional properties of coffee cherries and beans, the transformation process needs to be understood. Students will focus on scientific exploration of the coffee bean's journey from the cherry to the green bean. It focuses on the chemical and physical transformations that occur during post-harvest processing and how technology can be leveraged to maximize quality and sustainability. Balancing the understanding of the value of coffee and engineering principles will bring out the potentials within the coffee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the 2026 International Summer Course on value co-creation. And today's topic is about the topic coffee system and digitalizations. And today we will have two wonderful speakers, which is Dr. David Cook, PhD, FACS, a researcher and also a lecturer in computer science and cybersecurity at Edith Cowan University, Australia. And our second speakers is Dr. Bonang Waspadadi Ligar SSI MMSI, a lecturer and also a researcher in information system at Universitas Gunadarma. And before we proceed and talk and discuss the topics with them, let's take a look of their profile today. We would like to greet our first speaker, Dr. David Cook. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
And welcome to the 2026 International Summer Course. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to join you today.
Yes, it's a pleasure for us to meet you, and we're looking forward for your share and knowledge in this today's topic. And now we will proceed to our second speaker, Dr. Bonang, which is also with me in the studio in EGTV. Good morning, Dr. Bonang.
Dr. Asti.
How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Yes, we are also looking forward in your point of view and your perspective in coffee system and also digitalizations. So we will have three parts of today's session. The first session will be the session of material from Dr. David, and then the next session will be proceed with Dr. Bonang's material, and then the third one would be have the discussion about the topic we discussed today. So without any further ado, we would like to, Dr. David Good, your time and screen is yours.
Well, thank you. So firstly, thank you to IPB for allowing me to join. I'm in Perth in Western Australia today, but I want to talk to you about my work on digitalising coffee systems. So one of the things that I do is I work on areas where the need for digitalisation has crept into different farm management. And one particular area is in coffee systems, because coffee systems are typically grown all over the world, including Indonesia, in 2 to 5 hectare systems, what we call smallholder. They're not giant plantations, they're much smaller instances. And because they're smaller instances, sometimes they miss out on the benefits of a much bigger system where, let's say, a company comes in that does coffee in Brazil, they have enormous amounts of money, and they spend that on making sure that their crop is highly, highly regulated, very, very healthy. You can see that now. Great. So I guess the particular area that we concentrate on is what we call digital twinning, a digital twin. So it looks at what's happening on the plantation or the coffee farm, and we can use that information to make better decisions. Now, typically that sounds very technical, and the average coffee plantation farmer does not go to university and has a much, much simpler view of things. So the sorts of things I want to talk about today is a way in which farmers get information that they can make really clever decisions about, but they don't have to be computer scientists and they don't have to be engineers to understand what's going on. So when we look at digital twins, we try to understand them as different layers. I mean, when you are looking at something like a farm, you look out over the coffee plantation, you can see them with your eyes. But from a processing point of view, when we look at farms, we might think of information like how healthy a coffee berry is there any disease, do they have coffee berry borer, do they have leaf rust, do they have these sorts of things? And we look at things in different layers. So just to start, we have a definition of what a digital twin is. It's a high fidelity virtual replica of a physical asset of that farm in very terms. And it uses data in terms of real-time sensors. So these are typically small things. They're not expensive in the context of overall automation. The ones I'm going to talk about today are not expensive at all, particularly given that in countries like Ethiopia, in India, and perhaps in Indonesia, money is difficult. A coffee farmer doesn't have a lot of money to spend on sensors. And these things also work at what we call the edge, that is, on the fringe of digitalization. And so the typical things that we're looking for are things that are going to work really well and are going to work on a mobile phone. Those are the sorts of things where we're looking for simple agrodynamics that we can see in a mobile phone. Because whilst most farmers don't have flash machinery, almost every farmer has a digital phone, almost. And that's what we're going for. So why do digital twins matter? Well, they matter because they give predictive insights. They allow us to see things in advance. They optimize. They find where the problems are. They allow farmers to make better decision-making, and they allow you to make more money, which is an important part. Typically, when we do digital twins, we're using sensors to feed that digital twin. And so we've got predictive maintenance that comes from the various aspects. We can sense when a particular part of a coffee plantation is starting to have some health problems. We can tell if that problem is related to the canopy, if it's related to the water system, if it's related to pests, if it's related to plantation, some kind of rare event. It could be a weather event, or even if it's mice, diseases, those sorts of things. And it also allows us to check, because in many places on these farms, we're going to run things on small solar power, very small systems, allowing us to find information. And what the outcome is of course, we get reduced downtime, we get lower maintenance costs. Most of all, we get multiple efficiencies, which means a coffee grower is going to actually have a much more beneficial harvest, more berries per bush, more money, more coffee going to market, which is what we want. So we look at this from what we call digital twins, and we typically make a model that allows us to look at different really technical but simply on sense-based decision making. One of the things we can do is we can visualize very quickly, because we can see a picture of how our berry might look. We can see a picture about whether the temperature, whether the moisture, whether the protein value, whether the heat, whether the extracted components of that, whether the features. We can look at things in terms of the difference in color. And particularly in coffee, one of the best things that we do is to monitor the change in color, what we call color separation. That gives us really good, cheap information that's very accurate in terms of telling whether one part of a plantation may have an infection. It may have a coffee berry borer infection, or it may have a leaf rust problem or CLR. It may have one of these issues. I want to just talk about a case study I do in Australia, nothing to do with coffee, but to quickly give you a sense of one of the things we run. We have a problem in Australia, and our big problem is water. Our problem is we don't have sitting in Perth and it's raining. But for the most part, in terms of water, we go without that. We have drought. And so this next picture tells you what we typically have. Now, on a typical farm where we're trying to raise any kind of crop, and mostly in these crops it's going to be growing wheat, and wheat with some sheep, but growing wheat, you can see from these pictures when the water runs out, we can't grow any wheat, and the sheep die. It's a tragedy. And on these farms are large-scale farms. So we're not talking 2 to 5 hectares, we're talking 2,000 to 5,000 hectares, and these sorts of things are catastrophic. So we put effort into them. One of the things we do is to use digital twins to monitor water. We simply have a twin that senses how much water is in a tank, so we can tell when different water levels are going down and how much is evaporating. And we do that using a telecommunication system using LoRa, a long-range wide area network. Why do we do that? Because in Australia, we don't have 4G, 5G systems on our farms. We don't have good and doesn't cost any money. Typically, what that means is that we have farmers who don't have to sheep. You can see there's a picture of a man with a gun. We don't have to shoot our sheep. We get healthier outcomes, which are problematic from a water perspective, but we make good decisions. Now, when we pass on information to a farmer, one of the key problems is complexity. It's all very well for me to sit in a lab and decide how to work on a farm, but I'm not a farmer, I'm a computer scientist. What we want is to give this information to farmers in such a way that they can understand it. And so one of the things we work on very heavily is what I call dashboard management. And you can see 2 pictures in this particular slide. The slide on the left has many, many different graphs, numbers, and the face of the person is that he's terrified. He can't understand everything. Typically, what we're looking for one-off, something that fits onto a phone. And so the picture on the right is a person that looks at specifically do that in Australia because most farmers are not well educated. Now, in Indonesia and in Ethiopia and in India, we have the same issue. Most farmers don't go to university. Sorts of farmer that's working on a coffee plantation. And so we have simple systems that they can visualize and make good decisions. So just to go on quickly about the water storage system in Australia, you can see that the way a digital twin works. On the left-hand side, you've got a picture of the actual water tank, and on the right-hand side, you can see how much water's in the tank just by using a little simple image, a cartoon. Similarly here, we can get a digital representation of a water dam that's meant to hold a lot of water, but we can also see very quickly little things such as the quality of the water. Has it gone muddy? Is it turbid? Is the pH level changing? and does that make it suitable for livestock or suitable for wheat? And typically, we run things on very simple. You'll see some pictures on the slides here. We use our own made weather stations. We use solar power, and we put together a number of things which have the point of view of most of the sensors. Most of them cost, in terms of Australian dollars, $15. So quite inexpensive sensors and affordable when you look at it over the long term. The single thing that we're working towards is what's called a minimum viable twin. That is the minimum amount of work we can do, the smallest number of sensors, so that we can find out the exact problems that are happening for a particular farm. So we're not trying to monitor everything. That would be something for very rich farmers to do. We're trying to find the minimum viable number of sensors that we can use so that we can work out the specific problems that each individual coffee system might have. So later on, if anyone's looking at reading this and wants to do something in the next week or so as you go through the processes that are discussed, this would be the idea I'd look at. What is the key data? What are the sensors that you can use? Can you fly a drone, a cheap drone over it? And I'm not talking about a really expensive one. I'm talking about the really cheap toy drones. Can you look at the leaves? Can you see their color? Can you see their moisture? Can you feel it? And find out what problems you're solving from based on those very simple agrodynamics. And then get the right number of to record these things over and over so that we start to build up a long-range predictive model of what is required. And that's why we formulate simple dashboards that farmers who don't have education can use. So I want to talk about one that we've been working on. It's called the SOFADIC system. So SOFAD, SOFAD, is an acronym. It stands for Single Overflight Frugal Agrodynamics. And what it means is we use a drone, it flies over the plantation once a day, and it gives us some very, very useful features. And the kind of drone is a much smaller, typical, the kind of ones you can buy in shops. They're like toys. It's not an expensive drone. It's a very simple one. So here we've got some pictures of the actual drone we use, and you can see the acronym there, Single Overflight Frugal Agrodynamics. We did some work. We've done some work in Sulawesi. We've done some work in East Java. Has been done in India and in Ethiopia, but it's the same basic system. And what we do is we present, for work out what works, we have a system of waypoints. The drone flies over and comes back. It's all done within a few minutes, and we try and record that. Now, we will try and get single overflight to happen every day if we can. That's perfect. And if we are doing it every day, we're going to do it at the same time every day. So let's say we were doing it at, we would not want to do it too early in the morning, but let's say if we wanted to do it at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, we would do it at 10 o'clock every single day, just for a few minutes. And that allows us to look at the canopy. We get to see what the berries look like. We get to see the color separation to see if there's any discoloration. And that helps us to do predictive modeling on coffee berry borer. We can actually use color separation to very quickly see if you've got berry borer by monitoring the amount. And at the same time, we can use that for simple to degradation. So the challenge for us is most coffee systems only have small amount of land. They don't have enough money to do this. So this whole program, the SOFADIC system, is designed to be cheap. It's designed to be something which multiple farmers could share the same drone and use it there once a day and then take it to another drone, another farm and another farm. And so one drone can be used for 20 or 30 different holdings if required. Typically, the SOFAD system, the SOFADIC system, picks up three different things. So it picks up coffee leaf rust, which is ever present everywhere, including Indonesia, particularly in Java. It definitely picks up coffee berry disease, and it also looks on coffee wilt disease. So these are the sort of areas which I think are really important. And these are the things that have proven to make some differences on the plantations where we've used a SOFATIC system. The major factors, of course, are around trying to reduce the required infrastructure. We want small numbers of sensors. We don't want to use a lot of fungicides. Fungicides are very expensive, and we want to make sure that if there is any irrigation, a big issue in parts of West Java, but certainly in other parts. So some of the recent places I was looking at in the last couple of months in Ethiopia, water is a significant issue. And in Mangalore as well in India, a significant issue. So looking at how we deal with that problem. The tipping point is this 2 to 5 hectare model. And I think that's kind of what works for smallholders. Insufficient cropping for mechanical harvesting. So for the most part, it's done by hand, and difficulty with different kinds of pests. For instance, rats and mice, and various weevils. And of course, coffee berry borer, which would probably account for the greatest measure of losses in Indonesia. So it's a precision farming system. And the way this works is it requires someone to actually teach the farmer simply how to press a button, to watch the drone and comes back, and then to be able to wait a couple of minutes whilst it puts that data into a visualization on their mobile phone so they can make decisions. It's as simple as that. We're not asking the farmer to do maintenance or all sorts of things that are technical. We're not putting them in front of a computer. We're asking them to hopefully be able to look at a phone and to see what the drone is going to send them. The SOFATIC program does that for us. Now, for those of you who are interested in AI and the benefits of using things, one of the things that we made a decision on for this system was to specifically use a non-neural approach. It's non-neural for simple reasons. If we had a lot of money, we would go down a neural approach, but we don't. We have tiny amounts of money used by small drone systems and farmers who don't have education. So we use a Bayesian approach, and this works on one particular thing. It's called color segmentation. And the way it works, you can see the picture in the bottom corner of the slide, is that it does what's called specular highlight mapping. This specular mapping will tell us, by looking at berries, by taking pictures, it will zoom in on various ones, and it will tell us that in a glance, by looking at the color separation, it will also look at the shape and the texture. So it's looking for glossy berries. It's looking for a different kind of shape to see if there's any, if we find there's ones that aren't typically round, and we can see that there's some kind of disease that's happened there. But most of it is using rule-based logic on color separation. Color tells us a lot about the health of coffee berries, and it's very useful for predictive modeling. So just in simple terms, there's a big difference between what we call Bayesian networks and neural networks. Neural networks are fantastic, but they cost a lot of money and they take a lot of time to process. So we're going to take them and just take them aside. What we're interested here is a simple drone that uses a Bayesian network. It uses color separation and it gives us relatively good predictions. Now, is it perfect? No, it's not 100% perfect. It will give some false positive indications on certain segmentation. But what it does with the ability to look at their phone, make a decision on a map to say, I'm going to check this area here for some other kind of problem and just see if it makes a difference. And probably, in most cases, it's going to be about somewhere between 85 to 90%. And that's an exceptionally good modeling device for general low-level systems. As I say, it's not always perfect, but it's very, very useful for a farmer and can be a real-time saver. So it's what we use calling a rule-based system. It's on a Bayesian network, and it's a breadth-first search algorithm. So why do we need this? Well, because coffee is competitive. Some of the South American coffee plantations are highly competitive. They're very, very mechanized. They're run by huge corporations. And most models in other countries, Ethiopia, India, and Indonesia, don't have the same amount of money. Most smallholder farmers simply need to have something which is affordable. And so this is an affordable system. Not only is it affordable, but it's trustable. One of the things that it does by using a Bayesian thing is there's not a lot of computing power going on. It's done in the system as it does the single overflight agrodynamic, not as highly technical graphic information. By the way, all of that graphical information can get relayed back to a university. So IPB could be taking on all of this data and translating it into bigger models. If they wanted to compare drone data from multiple different smallholders, you could come up with a much more comprehensive data set. So you can do that as well. But the number one issue for this is to put it in front of a farmer who doesn't have a lot of time or a lot of knowledge about technical systems. Their knowledge is about what their crop is growing and what the berries look like. This Sophatic approach has been developed a number of times. You can see from the picture here, it's a very small drone. It's a 249-gram drone. There are many Chinese copies of these. Some of them don't work and some of them do. The key point of difference is to find that if you are going to use a Chinese copy of a drone, these ones are using DJI, but if you're using a Chinese copy of a drone, then it would be to find one that has waypoint registration. That is, it can pick different waypoints along the way. And that's something that's typically set up on the first flight and then left like that forever. So it takes more than about half hour to set up, and then the farmer can use it. They don't have to understand how to set up waypoints. That's something done by us or by IPB or whoever wants to come in to do that. Typically, these are very small, they're inexpensive, they do a single flight, one flight a day, and that's it, over and back, done in just a few minutes. And there's a minimum dependency upon the orthomosaic data. With big drone systems, they're looking to stitch systems together, they're looking to use convolutional neural networking. These things take big compute power, large systems. It's not what we're looking at all. We can do that. There's no money in it. There's simply not enough money to be able to afford that. So this uses a much simpler system. And of course, because it's doing that, you're using georeference tiling. You're flying over the same spot using the same waypoints each time. And that works really well. So in terms of what we call the Sophatic pipeline, we get to do a one nadir. That means that the drone has got a camera looking straight down. It passes over the canopy and it does one pass. It goes there and then comes back, and that's all. It uses waypoints to certify the responses, and it uses no special sensors. We're not talking about really expensive cameras. We're talking about simple cameras, RGB only, that pick up color separation. So all of those things are really important because it allows us to work on canopy stress, lesion cues from different leaf matter, color indices, and then we can look for berry issues if the coffee has a coffee berry, a berry borer issue, or if there's frass present or any other kind of infestation. We can also add in different data if we want to, such as different secondary sites that are ground-based from different traps and so on. And so we can get a certain triage. It depends on how far you want to go with different things. But this is just a stage one, very simple flyover. In terms of the non-neural feature extraction, the most important thing is that this is a very adjustable model. If you're prepared to work with a farmer for a few a really, really accurate system. If it's just a one-off thing, then it's a health check. It might be that the one drone is used to share between a number of different smallholder operations, and that's perfectly fine. These are small drones. They just come in a little box. They're designed to be used. They fly up, they go to a place, and they come back and land in the same spot. The farmer doesn't have to fly them. They don't have to navigate because we've already worked out the waypoints. And that's really important. I guess the only thing we've got to be careful of are some climactic issues. We wouldn't fly them if there's a storm. We wouldn't fly them if there's lightning. And we wouldn't fly them if the winds are like a huge tornado type wind. We would just do them on days where there's medium. They can fly in reasonably strong wind, but obviously not in tornadoes or storms. So this issue that we've just addressed today is one where it's a particular kind of digitalization that it gives us information that coffee users can use. It's low cost. It has one single flyover. It's very, very useful at giving predictive modelling, and that modelling allows the supply chain to be strengthened. You can work out specific harvest. Ultimately, the farmer makes more money. I'll stop there and hand back to the panel.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Dr. David. There is a lot of questions that I would like also to discuss because it's very interesting topic that you taught us today. And then also we have the similar issue and also challenges in Indonesia. So it's really inspires us to, I think, to do the same approach so that we can improve the coffee chain, the supply chain of the coffee in Indonesia, especially tackling this, I think, with the climate change and so forth. So we need something that is more precise so that we can improve the coffee production of Indonesia. So thank you so much, Dr. David. And before we do, we have the session of discussion, we will have a short break. And then we are proceeding with the second speakers, which is Dr. Bonang, which also will tell us about how we do the traceability of the coffee from the productions to the end customers. So stay with us. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, and welcome back to the second session of the 2026 International Summer Course, and with the topic of coffee systems and digitalizations. In the first part, we have learned from Dr. Cook how the digital tools help rural producers not to only comply to sustainability, but also how to increase their productions and tackling their challenges. And in the second session, we have another wonderful speaker, which is Dr. Bonang, which will talk about how we do the traceability of the coffee production so that it ensures the sustainability and also the traceability of the coffee productions. So without any further ado, Dr. Bonang, time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Asti, for the introduction. First of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for all of the course committees and organizers for preparing this meaningful learning forum and for inviting me here. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be part of this program, and I would also like to give my warm acknowledgement to my fellow speaker, Dr. David Cook, and on his material. And my honest opinion, it is the perfect material to precede my material because Dr. David Cook's material is very specific in use cases where my topic here is a broader topic, a high view level of traceability. So today I would like to invite all of the participants on the topic of the journey behind a cup of coffee, traceability, fair trade, and sustainability. So in our daily lives, we usually see coffee as just a simple drink. We maybe like to drink coffee because its taste, its aroma, or maybe because of the origin, and etc. Or maybe because after we drink it, how it energizes us to do our work in the morning. But in reality, there is such a longer journey behind the cup of coffee. So I want to invite all of you to see differently about coffee. So coffee is not just a beverage, it's a system of relationships. So I would like to start with a simple question. When we drink coffee, what do we usually know about it? So we drink a coffee, what do we think when we drink? So we usually know maybe about the taste. Oh, this coffee tastes like this, the aroma, the profile. Maybe we know about the brand. Well, maybe we know about the coffee. We bought the coffee, about the price, whether this price is affordable or not, a premium price or not. Or maybe we know about the country of origin of the coffee. So these are the factors basing the customers' buying decisions for coffee. But these are only the things that are visible to consumers. What we see in the cup is only the final stage of a much longer journey. If we say longer journey, coffee production is an interaction between a lot of components such as farmers, land, labor, markets, technology, and consumers. So if we talk about coffee, coffee is not just a beverage, it's a connection. It's a connection between people, places, and systems. So today we'll try to learn more about this coffee journey together. So the coffee journey is long, it's quite long. So we can see here, this is the simplified version of the coffee supply chain. So before the coffee even reaches the consumer, the coffee already moves through different actors, starting from farmers, cooperatives, processors, exporters, roasters, cafe retailers, and then it reaches the consumer. So it's a long journey. And every step, it changes hands. So as coffee moves through this chain, information can easily become unclear because it's not only the movement of physically the coffee, but also information surrounding this production. So it can raise questions. Who produced the coffee? Was the farmer paid fairly? Was it grown sustainably? Were workers treated ethically? And can we verify the claims on the package? So these questions will be asked by different actors with different reasons why they ask this. So now, the more the complex the journey, the more important transparency becomes. So, and then traceability becomes very relevant in today's supply chain. So before we continue on delving more into traceability, trade fair, and sustainability, we must understand why coffee matters. Coffee is a global source of livelihood. So coffee is not an isolated or small commodity. It is grown in more than 60 countries around the world, involving about 25 million farmers. And beyond those farmers, it supports the livelihoods of 120 million people. So there are professions that are related to coffee, but not farmers, say baristas and other ones. So 120 million people. This is a huge industry that many livelihoods depend on it. And the other important information that women contribute up to 70% of the labor in coffee production globally. So we know women also, they already have duties to raise their family, to cook, and other stuff, but because of life expense, they are forced to work also as a farmer. And today, it's rarely known, it's not visible, they are usually underappreciated. So this is where the term fair trade comes, because there is unfairness in the supply chain. So now we understand that coffee is not a mere beverage or an agriculture product. It is a source of employment and survival for rural communities. But there is a deep problem in the supply chain, which is unequal value distribution. So even though farmers are the starting point of the supply chain or coffee production, usually farmers receive only a small fraction of the final retail price. Even though, so the majority of value is usually captured more downstream, more near the consumer. Usually they are the roasters or retailers. So it doesn't mean that roasting or branding, packaging, exporting is not important, but the farmers here are the people that are facing the real risk in the field. And if these risks happen, they are the first people to experience this impact of risks. So they work in a high-risk situation, but they gain only a few values from this supply chain. So this is also what we can say is a little bit of unfairness in the supply chain. So if we continue, these are the multiple risks threatening farmers' livelihoods and sustainability of coffee production, such as production risk, climate change, pests and diseases, like mentioned by Dr. David Cook. Diseases and pests, it impacts heavily, hugely for coffee production. And there is also economic risk. We know that coffee prices is very volatile. Farmers receive only low wages and depends on single buyers because there are not many buyers that want to pay premium price. And on the other side, farmers cannot afford to not sell this coffee. So if a buyer comes and wants to pay a lower price, they will accept it. So these are risks also by farmers. And there is environmental, social risks, such as water scarcity, youth exodus. I mean, the younger generation now, the interest of being a farmer is declining. So it's also threatening the future of coffee farming. And there is also the risk in supply chain. Okay, if we continue, how much do we know that happens between the farm and the cup? So nowadays, a lot of actors in the supply chain want to know about the processes between farm and the cup. Consumers nowadays want to know where coffee comes from because we know on the labeling, the package, they say it's single origin, a lot of labels, good practice farming, and others. Consumers want to know where coffee comes from because where the coffee comes from also, it makes the taste different. Also, companies want to show sustainability commitments. They want to prove evidence of their claims on maybe sustainability, certifications, and also farmers want to be recognized and receive fair value distribution. So here comes three ideas together, which is traceability, fair trade, and digital transparency, making the hidden journey of coffee more visible, accountable, and sustainable. So we arrive now at the first key concept for this presentation. What is traceability? So traceability means the ability to follow a product's journey from origin to consumer. So from farm, the movement in every step of the supply chain, this is traceability, we track it. So in coffee terms, traceability helps us understand where the coffee came from, who produced it, how it was processed, whether ethical or sustainability claims can be checked. So traceability is not only about tracking products or physical products, it's also about making the coffee system more visible and accountable. So in simple terms, traceability helps coffee tell its story. And the next key concept is fair trade. So fair trade is a response to unfairness in the global trade. I already mentioned before the type of unfairness in the global trade. So because there is a state of unfairness, there is effort to move this state to being fair or more fair. And the key principles of the fair trade are fairer prices, better working conditions, farmer empowerment, community development, long-term trading relationships, and environmental responsibility. So what fair trade does is guarantee the farmers get decent income, they get they can have the future not threatened, and they can build their local communities with the value that they are receiving. So when traceability asks where did this coffee come from, fair trade asks, was the journey fair? So traceability is the path, and fair trade asks, was the journey fair? So traceability shows the journey, fair trade questions the fairness of that journey. So there is a connection between traceability and environmental sustainability. Traceability helps verify that coffee is produced responsibly, it can support sustainable sourcing, deforestation monitoring, change of land use, and also comply to regulatory requirements to global markets. Because now a lot of governments require proof of responsible production if a certain company wants to import or export their product to a certain country. So traceability is not just a marketing advantage, it is a strategic requirement. And there's also a connection with economic transparency. Traceability helps make value flows more visible across the coffee chain. Farmers have limited information about final market prices. Consumers don't know about the value if they reach the farmers, because if it doesn't reach the farmer, who will produce the coffee in the future? And complex chain, a lot of people, actors connecting these chains, there is a risk of exploitation and illegal acts. So by tracking transaction and product flows, traceability can support price transparency, reduce exploitation risk, more accountable markets. But we have to be careful. Traceability alone cannot solve inequality, but it can support fairer and more informed market relationships. And there's also a social dimension by traceability where farmers can get more recognition for their efforts, especially the smallholders, origin visibility. So if consumers know where the original coffee is, they have context. Oh, these people from this country, small city or small village in this country is producing this coffee. So how can we reach them? How can the value reach them? And also labor accountability, evidence of standards of labor of standard certifications and ethical sourcing compliance. So coffee production depends on millions of smallholders. Hopefully, traceability can strengthen farmers' recognition, the transparency of supply chain, and accountability across coffee communities. And also, traceability can help strengthen consumer trust. Can they trust the information? The label says the origin of the coffee is from this country. Can it be trusted? How is it produced? Is it using sustainability? Is it illegal? Or are the farmers working in humane conditions? Who benefits from this production? Does the local community get benefits from this, or only the big actors and big companies? It can support claims about sustainability, quality, and ethical sourcing. So it strengthens authenticity and trustworthiness. So traceability is also information system. So it means that it's not only a logistics tool, it is an information system. So the information itself is also a value. It becomes a value. We can now tell a story about the origins of the coffee, what practice do they do for sustainability, what's the product story. It becomes a source of value. We can sell the story of this coffee originating from a farmer from a certain country. So traceability works when information is trusted, meaningful, and shared across the coffee ecosystem. But what can traceability actually improve? So for farmers, they can receive greater visibility, stronger identity. They can have the chance to access premium markets by meeting more buyers, more partners. And then for companies, of course, stronger consumer trust, better supply chain management, easier compliance with standards, and for consumers, more informed choices. So they can choose which brand makes value for the farmers, or which brand doesn't follow sustainable certifications. They can choose which brand they want to buy because they know the story behind it. So traceability can create value, but the value should be shared fairly. And how can we implement these technologies? So digital technologies come to forth, like what Dr. David Cook shared to us, that digital technologies can help us record, verify, and share information about coffee more easily, such as QR codes. We can easily access production info. Mobile apps, farmers can record their activities at the farm, what they're doing, what's the process. Digital certification, which was paper-based, now it's digital. Blockchain's record, make the reliable data trail, and satellite, our map-based monitoring, monitor land use, or maybe now we can use a lot of drones too to monitor the land use and other stuff. So it is from trust me to show me. So in the past, companies only ask the customers or the consumers to trust us. We are doing this legally with best practices, but now the consumer can ask, show me the proof, show me the evidence. So this is also the role of traceability. So digital tools can support transparency, but they do not automatically solve inequality. So the two main technologies around this traceability, and a lot of research are on us, blockchain and digital certification. Blockchain can become a digital record, can increase confidence in information, supports more trustworthy verification, and digital certification platforms also help record compliance and sustainability standards and improves efficiency, audit more transparently. So these are more examples about digital monitoring and farmer technologies, satellite, detect production near protected areas. Are these lands used, are not allowed to be used for coffee farming, but they are used that, we know, and producer level tools. Farmers can access market information, record learning activities, farming activities, and receive technical guidance so they can upskill themselves too. So together, these innovations are transforming how information moves throughout the coffee system. So let's pause and let's think together. If we buy a coffee package like this, and there is a QR code on it, if we want to scan it, what do we want to know about this coffee, say? We scan it, we want to know the information. So most of the time, we want to know what we want to know, what the consumers want to know. Say we want to know the farmer story, the certification status, what's the process method, commodity. It's usually all about us, the consumer that scans. But information also needs to be meaningful for whom it reaches. What information would help consumers trust the coffee? On the other hand, what information would help farmers benefit more fairly? So traceability should be useful not only for consumers and companies, but also for producers. But traceability can also create challenges. Farmers may lack digital literacy, access to maybe internet in the farms, like Dr. David Cook said, in the fields there are no internet connection. Certification can become costly. It can be a barrier, not an opportunity. Data may be controlled by powerful actors. Farmer may provide information without receiving more benefits. So farmers are asked to give more data information, but without getting more value. And sustainability just becomes a marketing or a gimmick. So they show that, oh, these labels, we have these labels, these claims, but maybe they are not true. So a coffee system can be transparent, but still unequal. So there are also social challenges, such as digital divide. We know that not everyone can use these technologies. They can participate in traceability. Not all can do that. Then there is a risk of exclusion. Not everyone can participate. Without support, technology can create new forms of exclusion. So the key issue is unequal access and limited support. So the future direction is there needs to be capacity building for the farmers, inclusive access. We involve all the actors together and institutional support. And there are governance challenges. Transparency can increase visibility, but it does not automatically change power relations. Who owns the data generated by farmers? Who can use it? In what way? The power imbalance. You know, farmers has at least power to decide things, to decide the market price. So these are the challenges. Visibility without control can produce inequality. So the future direction are data rights, farmer voice, shared benefits. And who actually benefits from this technology? Transparency should not only make coffee more visible, it should also make the coffee system more inclusive, accountable, and fair. Digital transformation is a social and governance issue. Benefits must be shared equally across the supply chain. So best practice for inclusive digital transformation are inclusive design. Farmers must be involved from the start. Capacity building, we must upgrade the skills of the farmers so they can use these technologies. Stakeholders participation, so ensure different actors have voice, and of course governance arrangements. Okay. So from technology to relationships, building a fair coffee system cannot be done by a single actor. All of the actors need to collaborate for a better coffee future. It depends not only on better technology, but also a better relationship. So there's also value co-creation in sustainable coffee system. Value is not only economic, it is co-created across the coffee ecosystem. Consumers value transparency, business need credibility, accountability, farmers value fair compensation and recognition, communities value social and environmental sustainability. So sustainable coffee system create value that is economically viable, socially inclusive, and environmentally responsible. So fair trade is more than a certification label. It helps reshape how value is created, distributed, and recognized. So the closing statement is, remember that at the start of my presentation, I invited all of the participants to see coffee differently, not just as a beverage. So the long journey helps, with traceability, helps us see the journey of coffee. And we know that fair trade helps us ask whether the journey is fair, and it helps also the producers. And it can also, so in the future, we still can drink coffee. And together, they contribute to more transparent, accountable, and sustainable coffee systems. So I would like to end with a statement. The future of coffee is not only about producing better beans, it is about building better relationships among farmers, businesses, consumers, and communities. So I would like to end there. Thank you. I will give back to Dr. Asti. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonang. It's really enlightening session from you. And it's a perfect time also. And I think before we proceed with the third session, Dr. Bonang has taught us about how when we talk about coffee, it's not only how delicious it is, yes, and how we increasing the value. It's not only how we think about the technical things to improve the productions, but also how we can elevate the value itself by ensuring the traceability and also the fair trade of the coffee productions itself. So we see different point of view how we increase the coffee productions through the technologies that is available, and also approach that can be accepted by the farmers, and also how we try to persuade the farmers to elevate its value of the coffee itself by ensuring the traceability and also the fair trade of the coffee productions. And I also cannot wait for our third session for the discussion, because I have a lot of questions for both our speakers, but then we have to wait for the break session first. See you. Welcome back again, gentlemen, in the third session of the 2026 International Summer Course with the topic of sustainable coffee system, value co-creation in rural communities. And in this episode, we talk about how the coffee system and digitalizations can have its part on the value co-creation in the rural communities. And the first speakers has talked about many technological options that we can have or we can use to elevate or to increase the productions of coffee. And the second session, which is Dr. Bonang, has taught us talked about how to ensure the traceability and also the fair trade of the coffee, so that to answer the demands of the market today, which is to have more responsible productions of the coffee itself. So I would like to ask first question for both of the speakers. I think it's a very common question. How we persuade the coffee communities or farmers to accept or to try the technologies that we offer, that we believe that it can help them to increase the value of their coffee. So I think I would like to Dr. Cook to pose the question for Dr. Cook first to answer the question. Thank you. Because I think we face the same challenges to how to persuade the farmers to accept or to try, at least to try the technologies that actually can help, we believe that can help with their issues. So please, Dr. Cook, Dr. David.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a great question. Is to get our farmers to use technology. They have to trust it. That's the first thing, and they have to like it. They actually have to see a benefit. And so one of the things that I think we don't quite spend enough time on is, we call it the aesthetics. We have to make sure that if someone's looking at something on a piece of technology, and I'm going to relate to the mobile phone, if they're looking on something on their phone, it's got to be simplified so that they can get the idea straight away. Now, when we watch television, we see advertising that's very, very simplified. We have to use the same things when we're getting people to trust systems that track coffee. They have to look at it and go, I get it, This has to make sense. And the other thing is, it has to be reliable, which means that it can't just be a one-off system that says, oh, look, here's a report, or here's a picture, or here's something. To be trustworthy, it has to happen over time. And I think the third part about making this is to just make sure that you've got to give a bit. Money, even smaller money on technology, unless they feel that they can trust it. There has to be a benefit. And so sometimes in certainly the systems where we're trying to get a sulfatic system, which is the best way to and then let the word of mouth pass around so that the coffee community, those that farmers start to talk to each other and say, this looked like I could use it, or I believe in it. And that's the key to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I really agree with your statement that we can we start small and then we prove them that how they can really seize the benefits of the technologies itself, and then we can move further with the coffee communities and so forth. But then, yeah, I think it's really challenging also in Indonesia how to make it reliable because of the uneven infrastructures in Indonesia, and that's really how your innovations, I mean, your research with the low one and technologies instead of the usual connectivity that we had. I think it's really similar, I mean, and so can be adopted in Indonesian cases. Thank you, Dr. Cook. And we'll proceed with how Dr. Bonang sees it through his point of view.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Asti. I think the answer from David Cook is already excellent, but I would like also to add a little bit. So I think we need to, from my presentation, we need the capacity building, because we know the farmers, like Dr. David mentioned in his presentation, that they have low education, so they need to know what technology is, what problems does these technologies solve, and we have to show that we really care about them, because there are people that see technology as threats. You know, this technology will switch my job. I will not have to work again. It will use only technology. So we have to find that by capacity building. So when the technology is ready, we have to ensure that the users will also be ready. So and then we meet in the middle. So and then the switch will be more smoother in that way. So they know the benefits, they can trust it, like Dr. David said, and hopefully the switch will be more smooth about that.
I think they are more open for the change as well, because they know what are the change it's doing, right?
Yes.
I see. So the next question, maybe it's more specific to both of our speakers' topic. So I will pose the next question to Dr. David Cook. I was curious about how long, I mean, before you handling the hand over the technologies to the cafe owners. How long did you develop the sulfat, also the non-neural models that you proposed in your presentations earlier, and does it really? I mean, if the locations is different, do you need to recalibrate all the technologies that you mentioned earlier? Thank you, David. Dr. David.
Okay. The first part is, this is essentially about using Bayesian networks instead of neural networks. Neural networks are seen as the sort of the big profit-making system because they can be trained using artificial intelligence, they can be very, very financially secure, but they don't work in simple countries where there's simple infrastructure, low level of networking and low technology. So it has to be a Bayesian. And so it works on the same principles that you and I work on. When I look at something through my own eyes, I look at something's shape and its colour. Whereas a neural network is looking beyond that into other features and things that are very, very technical, really useful, but not suitable for this kind of approach. So it's a simple approach. The first thing is this system, to answer the second part of your question, it took many months to develop a particular Bayesian network that would work, and it works on colours that are representative wherever you are, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in Ethiopia, in India, in Indonesia. The colour of a coffee berry does not change by much in terms of a healthy berry, and it does change dramatically in terms of its leaf degradation. They rely on that. Don't have to retrain for very long. Bayesian networks are able to just use some basic RGB parameters so that within 1 or 2 hours of doing flights, you've got really good data straight away. That's something that perhaps links back even to the first question and this one. One of the things that allowed us to do this, and Indonesia has this lovely term, gotong royong, which describes this kind of you scratch my back kind of system. And it's so good for making these simple systems get embedded. So it's such an important part of getting what looks to be highly technical, but actually is quite simple in a technology sense. And if it's trusted, then of course people will use it.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And it's also, so because of the color, it doesn't really change between locations. So that's why it's the reasons why you choose the color as its features of detections, or it's also we came from the characteristic of the problem itself, then you use the color. And also, did you collect, the drone is going across the farm, and then you analyze it using the model that we already had, or you also collect it and also do the store the data and then use it for the improvement of the model in the future terms.
Okay, so two things happen. The first is it has an existing understanding of a typical perfect, it looks for the perfect coffee berry, and it uses very simple technology to do this. For people who use computer science, it uses blender technology, very simplified, very easygoing stuff, the sort of stuff you'll see on Facebook apps and things that generate funny people's faces. It's quite easy to do. But typically, whether you've got a Robusta coffee bean or an Arabica, they have the same features wherever they're grown in the world. They have the same basic shape, they have the same basic colour differentiations, and they have the same propensity for glossiness and for different areas where you can see deterioration on the skin. So they're really simple things we're looking for. We want to look for those simple features. Second part of your question is, does it add over time additional data? And that's up to each individual system. So for some systems, if there's a number of different smallholder farmers that can be using the same drone, then we can aggregate, we can take together the different parts of information and build a much more robust system. But if it's used in isolation, and this was my experience in Eritrea and Ethiopia in East Africa, in those cases, it's a single one-off thing. It doesn't build, it simply works on what it has, and makes sure that it's reliable and relates to that same issue over and over. So your question, the second question was really good, because if we can make things build to a much larger database, then we can start to use Sophatic. We could use it for all of West Java, or we could use it for all of Central Java. We could do those sorts of things. And that might not be applicable into other regions of the world. But what we can do is build on small systems where a farmer is not part of the technical side of it. They're part of the solution, that they get to receive information. The only thing we ask them to do, I think, is to try and make sure that if it gets damaged, you hand it in and get someone to fix it if you get a piece of damage. The reason I say that is because, and this was the point from Dr. Alon before, was that sometimes farmers fear technology and they think that, I'm going to lose my job, or technology is going to take my job. And often there's distrust. The most important thing is communication. So that way, if the drone breaks, if the battery runs out, if it's easy to use. And the benefit of that is using a small drone with easy to replace parts. The Chinese drones are really cheap.
Yeah. Actually, I'm really keen of your research and also your approach, because it's really how to say, it really near. I mean, not near. It's really relate to Indonesian challenges that we face, and I think it's really have the potential implementations also in Indonesia to improve our farmers itself, and that's why made me curious is that. So the different scenario of implementation is really depends on each of the locations of the farmers and also the challenge itself, and the system is flexible enough to adjust with the limitations of each of the farmers itself. As you mentioned earlier, in Africa they work on installation, perhaps maybe the cost of or the limitations of the funding itself, but then in other areas we can more expand it. We have more integrations because maybe for the fundings and also the support and the people of the farmers is more open for the technologies itself. So it's actually interesting, and also I would like to inspire my students here, because with the AI and other technologies that we know now, everything. When we would like to build the solutions, we come straightforward for the AI and neural technologies and the deep learning and all the complex technologies. But then when we came with our limitations, our local limitations, I think it's more challenge than the solutions to introduce. And I think it's a good, a reminder for the students itself that the technology itself doesn't really need to be very advanced. We really need to see the root cause and the root problems that we would like to solve. And thank you, Dr. David, for reminding us, and also for the inspirations of the technologies for the coffee farmers that you taught us today. And then I would like to proceed with Dr. Bonang. I also have another question for him as well. So, how is your? I think how is your? I see that for the fair trades and also traceability, I think it's more for the international markets, right? But then we also have the local markets that might think that. I don't really mind with the traceability. I don't really mind with the fair trades, as long as I have a cheap coffee, Yes. And to see these things is sometimes it's quite unfortunate, because by having those kind of requirements, actually we can elevate and we can increase their value of the coffee, and also then increase their value. And how your point of view about these things, how we can persuade. Actually, it's a good thing for local for the local producers to have good. I mean. Realizing the importance of traceability and also fair trade, because it's benefit them as well, and also it's easier for them to expand their market because they don't need to have all procedures then learning again and so forth. So what is your thought about this?
Okay, thank you. Very good question. So it's a very multi-level, complex question. So for traceability, it's correct that it's more for the global market. So when we have to identify which processors or farmers have targets, they have international targets, or other markets dominated by international markets or local markets, because then they have their own problems. We must solve their problems. So when I was doing my research at Pengalengan, Bandung, one of the processors, Java Frinsa, if you know, they have won award. Their coffee won awards internationally. So their dominant target is international. 90% of their market is going international. So nowadays, maybe we have to target which ones are more open to this technology. So now I know that the owners, they say that a lot of farmers in Indonesia are not go to university, but the owners of Java Frinsa, they go to university now, and they are more open on technology and more open on education. So when I went there and I explained about the project about traceability, they realize the benefits.
Their problems.
Even now, they expect that other people internationally know about their farm. So how can other people can know about our farmers using this traceability? But also the gap is very large. So if we can persuade the owners that have higher education than their farmers, because processors, they own the factories, but they also own the fields, and the workers are the farmers. So if we can persuade the owners, and then they can slowly begin to use to their fields. Because if we just speak about technology, it's a very wide gap, because like in Pangalengan, to sort the beans when they harvest at the fields, different varieties of coffee just use plastic bags. So there is one coffee, this variety of coffee, plastic bags, and we use just plastic ribbon. The red ribbon is this coffee, and the blue ribbon is this coffee. So it's a long way, but we can. The first thing is that we have to solve their problems, their real problems, because we researchers only, we want our research to be successful, and we have to understand that these coffee producers also, they are businesses also. So sometimes we have to align our research objectives with their business objectives, so they can understand, there is, beside the other side of research, also our business can have some value. And that is what the gap between research and industry. I think we have to align these objectives between the two industries, and maybe it will help ease the process of that.
Yeah, I think we can also go through the commodity itself, because we know that the domestic and also international coffee owners has their own challenge to comply with the standards and so forth, while in the domestic or local coffee owners or business is more, the requirements is less than the international, when we would like to enter the international markets. But then when we have this coffee with the aim of the international markets, then they are, we are building trust, that as Dr. Cook mentioned, which is the hardest thing to for persuade people to try to use technologies to solve their problems. And I think it's also a good examples. So we can start small with the we differentiate and we translate how traceability and also the fair trades amongst those requirements between international and also domestic. Then we can have a more integration on this aim that we would like to have, which is the traceability, the sustainability, and also the social inclusive of the coffee makers. And let's do, I think I still have time for the, we still have time. So I would like also to go back again to Dr. David. And what is your suggestion? I mean, the research that you tell us before, I think most of the case study happens in Australia, and I have a sense that you also get very familiar with the situations in Indonesia itself. What is your suggestions for us? I mean, what is the potentials of improvement of technologies that we can have to improve our farmers in Indonesia? Thank you.
So thank you for the question. There is a difference between farming in Australia and farming in Indonesia. And in Australia, it's all done on a very large scale. One farmer has thousands of acres, thousands of hectares, and in Indonesia, it's many farmers have small holding, and so it's a harder question to answer. It's a harder thing to do, but we simply have to start putting examples out. And as I said in one of the other answers, farmers talk to other farmers, and once you've won one particular farmer over, there will be a cascading effect. I mean, I've seen systems work I did some research many years ago in Malang, in Batu, where there was an apple industry, and getting one farmer to use a particular technology spread just by word of mouth to another one and another one and another one, and it helped to change their cost structure in terms of the fertilizer that they were using, and that made an enormous difference. These things happen in small steps. We don't have one giant fix, and giant fixes are very quick market, disrupt existing people. So I think the approach is slow, trustworthy, and reliable at every step. But it has to be publicised, and it has to be celebrated. One of the things that Indonesia can take a leaf out of Australia's book from, if Indonesia doesn't celebrate its victories enough. So when I hear about, examples about coffee being sold internationally and so on, that story has to be resonated everywhere. We have, Indonesia is very good at social media, but for some reason it doesn't yet apply to farming structures, and there's not enough celebration of the victories of farmers. Usually the news only reports the disasters or the things that go badly. We need to have a bit more of the other side.
Yeah, I think it's very typical of Indonesia, and I think that's also a strategy for us for celebrating our farmers, so that we have more collaborative works towards the betterness of our country, hopefully. And I have a quick question as well regarding the small drones the system of the small drones that you introduced earlier. So, as you can see now, the climate is very harsh, and also sometimes it's really the rain is very heavy, and then it's very sunny and so on. So it's not really easy for a small drone to roll over during that kind of harsh environment. I mean climate. So whenever at the time it's in the rainy seasons and the storm happens, then the drone cannot do its job because maybe it's kind of not stable enough due to the climates. So what is your suggestions, or what is your point of view on to tackle the challenge?
So again, this comes to an issue about money. And the key thing is that expensive drones, I have some very expensive drones that would, if they crashed or they fell down during a storm or some heavy winds, they would do thousands of dollars, or would do too much damage. These small drones that we're using use small parts. If they get blown off course or if they flow down into the canopy, they're recoverable, they're fixable using small plastic parts. They're much easier to repair than people realise. And so the system we've been developing, and I came across this to some extent in some other parts of Indonesia, where in the rainy season, so certainly in January, in the monsoon season, we had these issues, but what we did was we just had replacement parts. So if someone's drone doesn't, what we had to have was the trust where the farmer would say, can you give me another drone? And we had to have the spares ready to go. It actually, in these kinds of small drones, it's not that expensive that a research group can, it's easily affordable. In the bigger drones, impossible. It's just, you have to have a fully trained pilot and you only fly under certain conditions because you're worried about the cost of the drone. In small ones, it's completely, you trust the system, and yes, sometimes things break, you just replace them and you move on. It's a bit like replacing a flat tire on a motorbike. You just do it and you move on.
I see. So it's more reliable for the system itself. So I mean, even though there is problems that we can replace it instead of having a more expensive drone and then that are able to, to roam around the harsh climate, but then it's very expensive also if it's still, the damage is still occurs and it's more expensive on the long run for the replacement and on. But I have another question along the conversations. There is one question to pop up, but then I forgot. maybe later I pose a question and I contact you if you don't mind. So for the further discussion, because we are limited by the time. It's only 1.5 hours for us to discuss this very interesting and also inspiring topic that I myself learned a lot about this topic along with Dr. Bonang.
Yes, me too.
And I remember. So it is, as you mentioned, I think it's very technical. As you mentioned that you are suggesting that we are taking the pictures at the same time across every day, right? So during this, what is your suggestion if we face, like in January, February, when the heavy rain is very harsh, but we know that during the heavy rains, the photo that is photographed might not as clear as during the sunny day, right? So is it, okay, so when we, at 10, for example, at 10 a.m., we have this heavy storm. But then it ends at 11 a.m. So is it okay for us to having a different time frame for taking pictures during this heavy, the change of the climate seasons, or it better to take the pictures at the same time every time?
So the answer is yes, you can change from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock or to some other time. If you're in the wet season, try and make that, if it's roughly the same time, that's fine. But if it's not, it's better to take regular pictures when you can, once a day. It's medicine. You know, if you've got high blood pressure, you take the pill every day. It's exactly the same system. You need to try regularity. And sometimes, like many patients who take their blood pressure tablet, sometimes people forget to take their pill on one day. It's not going to wreck it if a person misses out on one day. It's the aggregate. It's doing it. If a month has 30 days in it, then getting that done 25, 26 out of the 30 days is a really good result. So that's okay. It's built into it that we expect that 1 or 2 days there will be something so difficult that we can't manage that. But the rest of the time is good.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. David, for the enlightenments and also for the discussions. And I think we almost comes to an end of our sessions. But then I would like to have both of the speakers to have a closing statement to our audience today. Maybe starting with Dr. Bonang first.
Okay, from my perspective is that technology is very helpful for farmers when they can see the benefits and they feel that we really care about them, because these people are humble people. They're happy enough when their coffee are sold. So if we can show that their income can increase, their value, they can be helped upon their processes, less work, I think the technology can be more accepted. So we have to, again, like I said, we have to build relationships between all the actors with one big goal, there is a goal of fairness across the supply chain. So the next generation, our kids, can also experience the delightful taste of coffee in the future. I think that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Bonang. And next, Dr. Cook, please having your closing statement to our audience.
So I would like to echo those same comments. This system requires, in order for people to trust things, it has to look authentic, it has to look genuine, and we have to believe in it. And so anybody, regardless of whether they are highly educated or lowly educated, they can tell the difference between real and fake. They can tell what it is, and people work this out very quickly. So the most important thing is to the conversation, and that we come back to things which are reliable. I love the use of that other idea about incorporating a heavy system of blockchain into the supply chain. And it's exactly the same system. I didn't mention it for my talk, but blockchain is an enormous part of guaranteeing that whatever we do is reportable. Whether it's good or bad isn't the point. It should be faithful and honest about what it does. And then that's the way people learn to trust things. There's a lot of distrust in the world right now on everything, not just coffee. There's parts of the world going crazy. But if you want to rely on coffee, you have to know where it's come from, under what conditions, and was it obtained under a fair system. And I absolutely love that conversation for this. It's the secret to making agriculture grow in Indonesia. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. David, and thank you so much for both speakers for the very interesting and also enlightening sessions we have today. And on a perfect note to the end, it's clear that that building the sustainable coffee system isn't a solitary effort. It requires transforming rural communities into active business partners rather than just suppliers. And also, thank you so much for our brilliant panelists for the time and also for the knowledge shares today. And there is a lot of options and also potential technologies that we learned today, both in the technical and how to improve the coffee productions, and also how to elevate the value of coffee itself by ensuring its traceability and also fair trade of the coffee productions. And thank you so much for your attention today, and thank you again for our wonderful speakers. And hopefully we can meet again in the next session. Thank you so much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.